Welcome to the Climate Gap Quick Cuts, the podcast for busy people building climate solutions. We spotlight founders, builders, operators, and investors doing the hard work behind real progress. I'm Ben, co-founder of LMC. We connect climate tech companies with the people who make scale possible. Let's get into it. So security is often an afterthought, bolted on at the end when the product's already live. But what happens when you flip that mindset and put InfoSec at day zero? Today's guest, George Rushin, brings a unique blend of consulting, SaaS, and CRE tech experience. Now at the helm of technology at NavigatorCRE, he's building platforms for enterprise real estate teams with security and scale baked in from the start. Today we talk about why business users need to be fluent in security, not just value. We also touch on how sandboxing real schemas with fake data builds faster, safer products. And we also touch on the rise of hybrid AI combining deterministic math with probabilistic LLMs to boost both insight and trust. For any teams trying to innovate without compromising client confidence, this one's for you. Let's get into it. So, George, great to have you. Could you kick us off with an introduction to you and your background?
Thanks for having me, Ben. Appreciate being on the show. My background is broad. Started off in the cruise industry doing business analyst work. Did that for a few years, but quickly transitioned into consulting. So I spent the majority of my career in the consulting space, working first for a medium-sized firm that focused in asset evaluations, really. So we work in the hospitality space, and I was boots on the ground for years, visiting hotels, visiting Courtyard by Marriott's and choice hotels and places like that, and evaluating the asset and sending reports back to our firm. And then we coupled that with a SaaS tool, and so we were able to take proprietary information from those hotel companies, like financial information primarily, and then we can couple that asset review with, who's the developer, who's the management team at the property, and we could start to paint a picture for a company like Marriott as far as, next time they develop a hotel in London or Dallas or wherever you are, who should I use? And so that was great. We did a great job at that. So good, in fact, that we got purchased by Deloitte, and so I ended up at Deloitte for the better part of 6 years. Gained a lot of experience in that time, and expanded outside of the hospitality space and started to work in retail with companies like Walmart, and got into technology more with Airbnb and clients like that, and then had a cup of coffee at Microsoft, I like to say, and a big data project there right before COVID hit, and then landed it at Navigator, where I am now, and I'm responsible for the platform, or the NavigatorCRE platform, software development, data engineering, the technology operations, we'll say, and then InfoSec as well.
Okay, wow, you've definitely got a great talk track for good dinner table conversation based on your career journey. So I want to talk about InfoSec at day zero. Most teams bolt on security at release. You start every project with a CSOs-led cavity search. What risks does that uncover early, and how does it steer architecture before work begins?
So it's a good question, Ben. So, my background really on the consulting side was primarily risk focused. So when we were working with the Walmarts and the Marriotts of the world, we were primarily focused on reducing risk for them. And that was on the, on the asset side, certainly on the data governance side with the SaaS elements that we had with them. But then, and that's really carried over into the, now working on the proptech side with the way that we develop our platform. So I'll take just an example that you and I, talked about previously. Is just like the way that we leverage real customer schemas and then pump in create fake data sets to help us test different software solutions. So that's both homegrown solutions, like the actual data engineering that software engineering that we're doing on our side, and then data engineering tools, software tools that we're interested in working with. Because what we found, and I know a lot of folks listening have found, if you have especially with the more that we try to leverage with, and we do leverage with AI tools, if you have a dummy data set of 10 rows or something like that, it's very hard to start to train a model or to really test a solution fully. And similarly, if we're looking at like tools that we work with on the capacity side, if we're looking for a better way to help a customer upload their data set to our platform, for example. And if you're working with 10 rows, like, okay, you get, maybe it works every time and it's real fast and all that, but I want to see what happens if Ben, you come to me with 50,000 rows of data that you need to upload, and your expectation is that it's not going to take 20 minutes for it to run, and you go have lunch and come back, and maybe it's not, maybe it's done, right? So that's really how we. That's an example, I would say. Taking a real schema, like what does an office portfolio look like for a set of customers, and we've gotten really good at that, using AI to help us build out a dummy data set underneath that's going to be legitimate, like the city is logically connected to the market, the cap rate looks right, like all those data points look right, so that when we go in and we want to maybe train an AI model, or we want to develop some new piece of software, we're stress testing it just like the client will, but we're not exposing their data to any sort of risk, and we're not exposed, hopefully, right, not exposing ourselves to any risk either.
Okay, I think that takes us to the next point. So before, when we spoke, you gave me an example of leveraging real schemas with fake data in sandbox environments in your testing. For those that might not know, how does this technique help reduce risk and fit into your overall product development strategy?
Sure. So risk we look at through a couple different lenses. So one is we want to be broad. We want to be focused on, so like you and I, we both attended RealCom, for example, right? So what do they open RealCom with 2 hours of, there's a wolf wearing a hoodie and it's stealing everyone's data, and AI, but right, like, so like all the hot button things. So we want to be cognizant of what folks are worried about, because a lot of it is important. It's justified, right? If I'm talking to a CISO on the other side who's getting paid, 7 figures a year to make sure that the data at their, REIT or whatever it is is secure. That's a serious person. I want to have a serious conversation with them and meet them at where they're at, where their risk level is. So we want to be highly cognizant of that. So broadly speaking, we want to be aware of what's going on in the market. And then the second is more focused. So usually it's not the CISO who's coming to us for this solution. Usually it's the a business person, right? They're looking for better visualization of their financial portfolio, maybe their IoT stuff, whatever it is. And so they've gotten to where they've gotten by being more like the visionary, right? They're in the breakout session where they're in the weeds talking about like what's possible. And so we want to meet that person at where they're at and make sure that they can actually get what they want out of, we'll say Navigator in this case, but we want to make sure that they get the business solution that they want. And if it's not us, that's okay too, right? And that they can properly articulate like what Navigator does, what the underpinnings, like what our technology stack does, so that when inevitably they have a conversation with, the CFO, the CISO, whoever it is, they can articulate not just the value proposition, like how is this going to help us close more deals or whatever, right? Or how is it going to help us visualize our portfolio and maybe sell properties at the right time or whatever it is. We want to make sure that they can get through that InfoSec conversation and say, here's where the risk lies, here's where the risk doesn't lie, here's how Navigator mitigates that risk, but through their technology stack, how they develop. Like, so I will have a conversation with that business person about like we just did, talking through how we're leveraging real schemas with fake data, like that type of thing. So just helping the business user articulate their ideas. So it's that broad lens, what's the market doing, and then that really acute, what does the buyer need to not just use our product, but help it be adopted in their organization.
So cloud and AI and the foundations thereof have been hot topics for a while and will continue to do so. Rather than crafting homegrown AI stacks, you've embraced Microsoft Azure's AI Foundry and the broader cloud tooling. What makes hyperscalers the safest wrapper, and how do you vet their security guardrails?
It sits in that same, just to piggyback off of what I just talked about, there is a place for, we'll say, like cutting edge, kind of freewheeling, seat of the pants, fly by night AI. And I won't say that I don't use it, personally, right? Like I'm very interested in that. But when we're talking about, a portfolio of, square footages in the billions or whatever it is, and all that, for us, it's most important, we want to make sure that, again, we meet customers where they're at. We're delivering the solutions that they want, but also it needs to be enterprise grade secure. So we need to say, hey, my buddy Ben created this, this AI chatbot in his garage, and it's really awesome. Maybe it is. But is it going to be, is it going to be, buttoned up in the way they need it to be buttoned up in order to use it at day and have, all sorts of folks across the organization use it. So yeah, we've taken a couple different approaches there. One, yes, is the Microsoft AI Foundry, like you'd mentioned. And so, I don't like to think of myself as like an expert in many things, but I like to think I understand incentives. Microsoft is incentivized to work with companies like Navigator, all sorts of companies, to understand what our clients are doing, and they can help us build solutions for them. And then the byproduct is we continue to use all those nice Azure services that we pay a whole bunch of money for every month. So Microsoft AI Foundry has been great. Like they've really helped us do a couple things that I think I didn't foresee maybe 2 years ago when I was putting prompts into ChatGPT and okay, like this is great. This is like the whatever, like the bee's knees. So our customers, they have a need. One of the most common things they're asking for is like basic math problems to be solved. And so, you and I know, or most customers, right? They know best place to go to figure out how many properties you have in London is to a structured table of your assets, and it says you have whatever, 12 properties in London. But when you want some insight on that, and you want to say, tell me about the risk give me a summary of like my biggest risks, like what properties at the biggest risk of losing value or something like that over the next 5 years of my London properties. It's very important that underlying AI can accurately count to 12 and say you have these 12 properties, and of that, here are the two that you might want to look at for whatever reason. And so Microsoft has really helped us in that capacity be able to work with the underlying AI models so that we're returning good information, sound like quality information to our customers, but then also like I mentioned at the top, it's that that enterprise. It also provides that enterprise grade security, right? And like to some degree, Microsoft is in the room when they're talking to U.S. federal government or world governments. They help dictate what that is, right? Like that's their position in the game, and so that's a couple of the reasons that we chose them.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think there's always this urgency that people have, and sometimes they think free is best. You might have touched on this already, but for the listeners that might need this, how do you enforce strict data residency policies, zero trust access controls, and privacy by design so client data never slips through buried settings?
A couple of things there. I believe that wholeheartedly. You look at where I don't mean to pick on OpenAI, but they're like the most popular. They're the most popular one out there, right? Like their new CEO comes from the Facebook app, and then like Instacart, where they've made it so that you can you can pay for a pizza over the course of the next year if you want, right? Like it's important that you understand there's got to be some valuation to these models somewhere, and if the only way that we're engaging with them, right, is just you and me pinging a questions, at a certain point, the rubber's got to meet the road, and they need to make some serious money. So anyway, not to go too far off, but yeah, like as far as how we handle it internally, it circles back to a lot of the things that we talked about earlier, making sure that we're using I talked about the fake data example where we're using real customer schemas that allows us to do a lot of things by developing that way. And that's I keep going back to this example, but Ben, say you're my customer, right? You've been a customer for 5 years, and I'm developing a new solution. I value your input. I've known you for a long time. We have a good professional relationship. I don't golf, but we're pretending. Maybe we go to the driving range together. I don't know, right? So I would love to get your feedback on a new development. Like we're working with Azure AI Foundry, Ben. I would love it if you could look at that tool. We need to be prepared to work with our customers in that way. And so that's like, if we have a robust data set and we have an entire sandbox environment built out where I can give Ben access, and he's looking at a real world example of maybe what another customer uses. Maybe I'm not developing this particular solution for Ben, but I value his opinion. that helps us develop. And internally, it helps me. I can make sure it's any sort of technology development that we're working on. It's not limited just to our engineers. I can hand that over to our customer success team, our sales team, because maybe I don't have the relationship, maybe they have the relationship, and they want to take it to a certain group at a company and show it off. It helps us get the broadest feedback on our development from stakeholders with all sorts of different incentives and needs and things that like we might not even be considering or may not have considered when we outline the initial solution. And I can't tell you how many times, what we whiteboard out at the outset of a software development sprint, we're a mile off by the time we get to production in a way, right? Like our guests, okay, we were kind of close, but it actually solves this need that we didn't anticipate. That helps us, immensely. So that's how we tie those. We try to tie those things together. Is we want to provide access, but we want to make sure that it's safe. And so if somebody makes a mistake and shares their screen or something like that, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, that's the way we want it to be, safe. So looking ahead, you and many other people significantly smarter than me are exploring hybrid AI and sort of deterministic engines for financial and IoT, math paired with probabilistic LLMs. So genuinely, and I'm really interested, how will mix in some sure and smart models improve both security and decision making in corporate real estate?
Back to my my example earlier, that's almost it's table stakes, I would say, for our enterprise customers. They need to be able to they want to write a lease or something like that quickly, or get a summary of their portfolio, but they want it filtered in some way, like by whatever it is, by market or something like that. We need to make sure that the AI tool is doing math well, and then providing the really nice, like, robust language that we're all used to by using like a lot of the probabilistic tools that everybody's used to, right? The free ones that are out there. So Microsoft has helped us a lot, but this is actually, we've formulated a partnership with a company called Aria that's been in the NLG game for a very long time, well before it kind of exploded on everybody's TV, it's LinkedIn and everything, a couple years ago. And so they've really helped us mature in that respect, because they've done it, and they do it for huge, like, Home Depot and the customers with data sets that are, frankly, a heck of a lot bigger than what we're used to in the commercial real estate space. Like we don't really work we work with important data and sensitive data, but we don't really work with big data the way that that they're used to. And so they've been able to accelerate that, and they have the ability to allow users to ask questions free form, just like we're talking, and do the math correctly and really also spit out like important insights on a portfolio. So that's been really great for us.
So I really feel like there's a lot to be taken from there for people in your role or people thinking about some of the things that you've already deployed. Thank you so much for your well thought out answers and insights that you've shared. I'm keen to follow how this hybrid AI story unfolds.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, it's been awesome to talk to you. Thank you.
Some great insights from George. Here are 4 I took away. Start with security, not stories. If you wait until launch to think about risk, you're too late. CSO level scrutiny at day 0 keeps you honest and your architecture sound. 2, real schemas, fake data. It's not just about anonymization, it's about mimicking reality without exposing it. That's how you build, test, and demo with confidence. Meet buyers where they are. Business users don't care about stack choices. They care about outcomes, but they'll need to defend those stack choices. Help them. And finally, 4, hybrid AI is the future. Merging deterministic logic with LLM flexibility unlocks real estate insights that's explainable, repeatable, and secure. As George put it, I'm not here to show off tech. I'm here to make sure my clients can actually use it. That's Quick Cuts. Short episodes, sharp insights, no filler. Catch you next time. You've been listening to the Climate Gap Quick Cuts. If you're building in climate tech, subscribe to hear more from the people making it happen.